Hey YouTube, today we're going to talk about fuel systems and how to upgrade what you need. Some of this stuff is going to be budget friendly, so you can get it from a junkyard, or if you want, buy it all from your local auto parts stores or Summit or wherever you buy your high performance parts. So let's get at it. Now the first thing I'm going to talk about is this can work for any combo. It's not a designated for like LS swaps or for big horsepower small block Chevys or big blocks or just your Grand National guys. Whatever you got, this will work for all of them. Where you need a in-tank electric pump instead of a mechanical pump, this will help you out. So let's get to it. So the first thing is your gas tank. Now obviously this is like a Spectra aftermarket gas tank for like your Monte Carlo with a throttle body or a Grand National with the V6 turbo fuel injection. This is your generic G-body tank. Now obviously the difference is, which you can kind of see in there, you have the metal bowl right there. So it helps with fuel slosh. So when you get to about half a tank, it also helps with not letting your fuel pump starve. Why they came with a metal cup. Now obviously if you have a factory one from like a Monte Carlo with a fuel injection or a Regal Grand National, they came with a plastic cup. Now those are good, but they do have issues because these cars are 30-40 years old. And that cup does, so it's no longer there. So because of that, it makes it where those tanks aren't really valuable unless they're in really good shape, which is why I just say go with the Spectra. Now one thing to think about, depending on what G-body you do have, is the filler neck. I bought this gas tank where it's just the gas tank, then I added whatever filler neck I needed. Now obviously this filler neck is for a Malibu, Le Mans, Bonneville, Grand Am style because it is a shorter neck right here. Now obviously because it's going in a Malibu base, that's why I needed the shorter filler neck. Now obviously if you're doing this for a Monte Carlo, a Cutlass, or Regal, those use a little bit longer filler neck. So the second part of the system that we'll talk about is sending units. Grand National or Monte Carlo style sending unit, which would have the spot for the electric fuel pump, which I'll show you right now. So here's your standard Grand National or Monte Carlo EFI sending unit setup with the 3 lines. So obviously this one I put right here. I put a Aeromotive fuel pump. I think it's like a 340 liter per gallon, or it's going to be good for my application, but it may not be good for yours. So you'll need to get a proper fuel pump for this setup, but this will work great. Now obviously this is where you can change your idea. Because this has the standard plastic strainer, you can use this style strainer, or you can go spend a little bit more money and buy the Holley Hydromat, which is kind of a matte system. Now if you go with that matte system, you really don't need the Grand National tank or the Monte Carlo tank. You can go with whatever tank you have. So if you're doing an El Camino or a Cutlass or anything that was carbureted from the factory where it don't have that bowl in the gas tank, then you can go with the Hydromat here, put this sending unit in, you're good to go. But if you want that cup style for the gas tank and you're going to go this route, you need this style strainer with this kind of Grand National or EFI based sending unit for your application, and then this will get you going. So let's talk about the next step, which will be fuel lines. Okay, so we talked about the gas tank, we talked about the sending unit and what pump you need to get. Now we're going to say we assembled that, about to put that in the car. Now you need fuel lines. So go to your local junkyard, go find a 93 to 02 Camaro Firebird, or you can get a Caprice from that year. Those 3 types of cars have lots of fuel line. They come in a plastic thing, so however they're going to come like 10-15 feet long. They're going to have this standard GM snap lock. Go to a junkyard, strip it from a LT or a LS1 or a 3800 from those Caprice Camaros or Firebirds. Strip it from the front of the car all the way back to the gas tank. Do that a couple times based on how much line you need, and then go on eBay or Amazon and buy the adapter kit, which will make it where you can add an adjustment. So like if you need a 5-foot section and then you're going to make a cut, then you can join pieces together and do that, and this works. Now I'm not saying it's the best route, but I'm saying that's the route that I like, because you're going to spend probably no more than $3-4 for the fuel lines from a salvage yard. You're going to spend probably $20 to $50 for the adapter kits to do whatever fittings you need for the plastic line, and then you're done. And obviously you're going to need a fuel filter, so put it somewhere about the middle of the frame, wherever you feel like comfortable you want to set it, where it's easy to get to, easy access, and then run that for your system. Now obviously you can go more expensive, you can go and fittings, they are going to cost you a lot, but for a daily driver street car, we'll say that's not making anything more than $650, $700 max. Having less than $5 for some fuel lines, it's a really good deal. And those cars run that kind of line, high horsepower, the 4th gen Camaros, they're doing it from the factory, and then they add AND lines. So our cars can do it too with their old lines. So just something to think about. You don't have to put a lot of focus on it, because these are high pressure due to they're rated for fuel injection, which obviously you may be carbureted, but you wanted that in-tank system. But to get to that carburetor that you want to do, plastic line is fine. It's going to handle all the new different types of fuels like E85, your E10 gas. It'll handle it versus your old lines that are probably rotted or rusted based on where you're at. That covers the line part. Now let's get to the next couple parts of it, which would be electrical and your regulator. So the first part, fuel pressure regulator. I wanted a cheap one that would handle regular brass fittings, like from a home improvement store. I didn't need the AND fittings or anything special, but you can go with a better regulator nowadays. For what I was doing, how my setup was going to be set up, this is good enough, which this is your standard Aeromotive boost regulator because of that nipple. So I was going to run something like turbo or supercharger. Now obviously this you can go different based on how many ports you need or how many lines you're going to run to it. And then this kit does come with 2 different springs. So it has this little spring. Now in the kit, it does say if you add, I think, both springs, it can handle like fuel injection setup would do 45 to 50 PSI. And if you run the one that comes in this kit that's already in here, it's just good for like the 13 pound or less for like if you're running a carburetor. So this is like a multi-purpose one. It's not a designated for EFI or carbureted. This has a adjustability to make it where based on how much boost you're doing or how much your fuel system is needing to be taxed, that spring will come in handy to adjust so you can get it to the right PSI for your fuel system. Okay, so this is going to be for the guys that are starting off with 0. This is your standard universal fuel pump kit. This is your power system. So it's going to have all the stuff you need to run it from the gas tank all the way to the alternator, where a lot of it's going to plug into or bolt to the back of the alternator or the battery based on how the instructions want you to wire it up. Now that's if you have no wiring. Then obviously if you do have the pigtail, which would be your 3 wires, if this pigtail is hooked up to your taillight harness on the back of your car, then you can do the other option, which is just going to add extra electric to your fuel pump, so it gives it more voltage, more consistent voltage, so you don't have lean spikes and you don't have issues when you floor it or are really needing the fuel pressure that you need for your engine. So this is just your standard GM 3-prong 3-wire plug. Now obviously I'm wiring mine into my taillights a different way, so that'll be in the Pontiac build part 2 coming soon. But this is going to be your standard just your regular hot wire kit. Now obviously this is Racetronic. A lot of companies nowadays make them. You can get one from Holley, from G-Body Parts. You can go get a cheap one from eBay. You probably have to replace all the relays and some of the other stuff because it's cheaper made. But everybody makes a hot wire kit. It's just this happened to be the first one on the market when I was buying them about 10 years ago. So let's talk about it. Now obviously if you look, this has your 2 3-wire plugs. So you're going to plug this into this. So this would run down your bumper. You're going to plug this together. And then this would run to the other side. This would be running to your center unit part of on the gas tank. And then you run all this all the way to your alternator and plug it in, and bam, you're done. Now that's going to give you extra voltage, and especially because our cars are 30, 40 years old, like I was talking about, your wiring's old and brittle anyway, and so it needs an upgrade. And this is why these are great. It does help out, so that's one of the reasons why I added it to the list. This is great, and it's great quality stuff. So okay, so the last little piece of this puzzle that you need to know is either you're going fuel injection or carbureted. So that's going to be the last piece I'm not going to include because that's going to be based on your setup and how you're running it. Obviously the car that you're going to see a lot of these parts get put on is going to be carbureted because it's just the simplest setup and you only need a couple screwdrivers to run it. But I hope this helps some of you guys out that are doing LS swaps or putting a Sniper EFI or a EFI system on your car. Push you in the right direction for your fuel system for your car, and like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.